We make choices every single day. But how often do we actually struggle to explain why we made them? Whether you're at work or just talking with friends, being able to clearly explain why you prefer one thing over another, well, that's a real superpower. So today, we're going to build that power, one sentence at a time.
I mean, think about it. Coffee or tea? A Mac or a PC? When someone asks you why, it is so easy to just fall back on, I just like it better. But that doesn't really explain anything, does it? It's not going to persuade anyone, and it definitely doesn't make things any clearer. The good news is, there is a much, much more powerful way to communicate your choice.
And the secret, well, it's all in the structure. See, it's not about having some giant vocabulary. It's about using a few simple frameworks to organize your thoughts and make your point absolutely crystal clear. So where do we even begin? Well, this is the first part of our toolkit, the art of comparison. And, the funny thing is, the very first step in explaining a difference is to find what's similar. Every powerful comparison starts by establishing some common ground. Right. Before you can even talk about what makes two things different, you have to establish what makes them comparable in the first place. You're basically showing your audience that you're comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges. And on a gut level, this builds trust. It tells the person you're talking to that you're being fair and objective, even before you state your preference. So, let's look at our first tool. It's a super simple but really effective structure. Both products offer a certain feature which makes them suitable for a specific purpose. See how clean and direct that is? You're immediately setting the stage for the whole conversation. And here it is in action. Instead of just saying, oh, both phones have good cameras, this sentence does so much more work. It names the common feature, a high-res camera, and the shared purpose, being great for people who love photography. Instantly, you've added some really valuable context. Okay, let's look at a second tool that builds on this idea. This structure is great because it doesn't just point out a similarity, it explains the outcome for the user. The key here is linking a shared feature to a real-world advantage. Just think about how much more sophisticated this sounds than saying, both phones sync with your other stuff. By using the structure, you're explaining the benefit of that feature, effortless synchronization. It's a tiny change in wording that makes a huge difference in how clear you are. All right, so once you've laid that common ground, it's time for the main event, finding what actually sets them apart. This is where you help someone really understand your choice and maybe even guide their own decision. Now we get to the second part of our toolkit, highlighting key differences. This is all about the art of contrast, and it's where your argument really starts to come alive. The power of this next tool is all in that first word, unlike. It immediately tells your listener, hey, pay attention, here comes the important distinction. This template is just a fantastic way to zero in on a competitive advantage. Here is a perfect example. It's direct, it's clear, and it's persuasive. You've pointed out the specific feature, that higher zoom range, and you've explained exactly why it matters. More flexibility. The other person immediately gets the practical difference. But what if both options are really good, just in different areas? Well, this next structure is perfect for that exact situation. While product A excels in one thing, product B is superior in another. This shows you've made a really balanced, fair assessment, which makes your whole argument that much more credible. Let's look at this one. You're giving credit where it's due. Yep, Bose is incredible at noise cancellation. But then you pivot to the key thing that matters for your choice, Sony's better battery life. It's a really sophisticated way to frame a decision that's based on your own priorities. Okay, let's just hit pause for a second and recap what we've got. On the left, we've got our phrases for finding similarities, using words like both or similar to. And on the right, our powerful words for highlighting differences, unlike and while. This is pretty much the core of your new communication toolkit. Simple, right? So we've looked at comparing and contrasting separately. Now it's time for the final piece of the puzzle, crafting a balanced view. This is where we bring it all together into a single, elegant, and really powerful statement. This right here is the master-level structure. You start by stating the shared purpose, the thing they both do, and then you immediately pivot with that magic word but to explain the different ways they do it. It's a complete, concise comparison all in one breath. And this example just nails the final concept. We see the common ground, they both make smoothies, and then we see the key trade-off that really defines the choice, power versus convenience. In just one sentence, you've given a complete, balanced, and incredibly helpful comparison. So there you have it. That's your complete communication toolkit. Now you're totally ready to make clear, effective comparisons and explain your choices like an absolute pro. Let's just quickly recap the process. Let's just boil it all down into 3 simple, memorable steps. First, always start by finding the common ground. Second, pinpoint the key differences that actually matter. And third, use these sentence structures we've talked about to build your argument clearly and persuasively. So the real takeaway here is that you now have the language. The next time someone asks you to explain a choice, you won't have to just say, well, I like it. You'll be able to explain exactly why. So I guess my question for you is, now that you have the tools, what are you going to compare first?